You're probably richer than you think. I know that might sound crazy, especially when you're checking your bank account and seeing way less than you'd like. But here's what I'm about to show you. Real data on net worth by age for women. And I'm betting you're going to discover you're actually further ahead than 70% of women your exact age. And if that's true, what do you do with that information? How do you use that head start? That's what we're unpacking today. If you want to build real wealth and finally understand where you actually stand financially, hit subscribe. The channel is all about showing you the truth behind the numbers, and trust me, this truth is going to surprise you. Let's start with the thing that keeps so many of us up at night. You wake up, you check your account, and immediately you feel behind. You see that number and think, I should have more by now. I should be doing better. I should feel richer. And that feeling is so real and so valid. But here's the problem. You're comparing your actual net worth to what you think it should be. And those are two totally different things. What you think you should have is usually based on highlights from Instagram, stories from friends who are exaggerating, or some vague number you heard once at a dinner party. But actual data? That's different. And when you look at the real median net worth numbers for women by age, something shifts. So let's talk about what net worth actually is, because this is where a lot of confusion starts. Net worth is everything you own minus everything you owe. So if you have $10,000 in savings, you own your car outright, which is worth $8,000, and you owe $5,000 in student loans, your net worth is $13,000. It includes retirement accounts, investment portfolios, the equity in your home if you own one, your car, any side business, minus any debt. Credit card debt, student loans, mortgage, car payments, everything. And most people have no idea what their actual number is. They just feel like they don't have enough. Here's where it gets interesting. According to recent Federal Reserve data, the median net worth for women in their 20s is around $2,000. For women in their 30s, it jumps to around $12,000. In your 40s, you're looking at around $60,000 to $80,000. And in your 50s, the median climbs to around $150,000 or more. Now I want you to really sit with those numbers for a second. Because if you're in your 30s with $5,000 saved, you're already ahead of the median. If you're in your 40s with $40,000 in retirement accounts and you own a car, you're ahead. The bar is lower than you think. But here's the thing that really matters. They don't know they're ahead because they're surrounded by a completely filtered version of reality. The women making six figures are the ones posting on social media. The women with investment portfolios are the ones talking about their stocks at brunch. The women who are struggling are staying silent. And that means your perception of where you should be is completely distorted. You're comparing yourself to the top 10% and wondering why you feel like you're at the bottom 50. Let me ask you something. When was the last time a friend told you her actual net worth? Because we don't talk about this stuff. We talk about salaries sometimes. We talk about what things cost. But net worth? That's private. That's scary. That's the number that makes you feel successful or like a failure. And because we don't talk about it, we assume everyone else is doing better. We assume that everyone else figured this out, and we're the ones left behind. But the data says something totally different. The median net worth for women under 35 is actually shockingly low. We're talking single digits or low thousands for most people. And that's not because most women are bad with money. It's because most people, especially women, are starting from behind. We earn less than men in almost every field. We take more time out of our careers for caregiving. We're more likely to work part-time. And building net worth takes time. It takes compounding. It takes years of earning, saving, and investing. So the fact that you have anything at all is actually a win. And the fact that you might have more than 70% of women your age, that's a legitimate achievement. Now I want to be really clear about something. Having more net worth than the median doesn't mean you're rich. It doesn't mean you have enough. It doesn't mean your financial anxiety isn't valid. You can be ahead of 70% of women your age and still feel broke. You can have $20,000 and not feel secure. You can have $50,000 and still worry about unexpected expenses. Net worth and how much money you feel like you have are two totally different things. But knowing that you're ahead, knowing that you're doing better than most, that can be a starting point. That can be the thing that shifts how you think about your situation. Let's dig into the numbers one more time, because I want you to really see where you fit. In your 20s, the median is around $2,000. That includes people who have nothing and people who have inherited money or have family support. In your 30s, it's around $12,000 to $15,000. In your 40s, it jumps to anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000, depending on your education level, career, and whether you own property. In your 50s, you're looking at 150,000 to 300,000. And in your 60s, it could be over 500,000 if you've been consistent about saving and investing. Now here's what's wild. Most of that net worth isn't liquid. It's not sitting in a savings account. It's in retirement accounts, home equity, investment accounts. So a woman in her 50s with a $200,000 net worth might actually have only $30,000 in cash. But it still counts, because that's the money that's working for her. So if you're reading through these numbers and you're thinking, okay, I'm at 100,000 net worth and I'm 40. That means I'm ahead of most women my age. That's amazing. But I still feel stressed about money. That disconnect is real, and it's important. Because sometimes what we need isn't more money. It's clarity about what we actually have and what we're actually trying to build. Here's the thing about that head start. If you're ahead, if you're in that top 30%, you have something that compounds. You have momentum. And the next decade is where that really matters. Because net worth doesn't grow linearly, it accelerates. Someone who has 50,000 at 40 can easily have 200,000 at 50 if they keep earning, saving, and investing. Someone who has 200,000 at 50 can have $1 million by 60. But that only happens if you keep going. If you know you're ahead and you use that knowledge to push forward instead of just coasting. So what do you do with this information? How do you actually use this head start? First, you acknowledge it. You sit down, you add up what you actually have, and you accept that number. Not love it, not celebrate it if you're not ready, just accept it. Second, you get crystal clear on your goals. You're not trying to beat some vague sense of where you should be. You're trying to hit specific numbers. Maybe it's 100,000 by 40. Maybe it's a $300,000 house with a paid-off car by 45. Maybe it's the ability to take a sabbatical in 5 years. Get specific. Third, you make a plan to get there, and this is where most people fail. They have a goal, but they don't have a plan. You need to know how much you need to save per month, where it's going, how you're investing it, and what timeline you're on. If you're 35 with 50,000 net worth and you want to hit 200,000 by 50, you need to save about 10,000 a year plus investment gains. Is that possible on your income? If not, what needs to change? Fourth, you stop comparing yourself to others. This is crucial. You know you're ahead of the median, and that's great. But the median isn't your competition. Your competition is your future self, the you that you want to be in 10 years. That's who you're racing. And that person is so much easier to beat than you think, because most people aren't racing at all. Most people are stuck in the feeling of not being enough. Fifth, you automate everything. This is the secret weapon. If you decide that you're going to save $500 a month toward investments, you set up an automatic transfer. You don't think about it. You don't have a choice. It just happens. And over time, that $500 a month becomes $500,000. That's not an exaggeration. That's how compounding works. Sixth, you educate yourself about investing if you haven't already. Because net worth doesn't grow from savings accounts. It grows from investments. If all of your net worth is sitting in a savings account earning nothing, you're leaving money on the table. You don't need to be a stock picker. You don't need to day trade. You just need to understand basic index funds, diversification, and time in the market. If you're 30 and you've got 50,000 in savings, that 50,000 should be growing in a diversified portfolio, not sitting still. Seventh, you protect what you have. Insurance, emergency funds, a will if you have dependents. Net worth can disappear fast if something goes wrong. One major illness, one accident, and everything can be gone. So you build buffers. You have 6 months of expenses saved. You have the right insurance. You've made a plan for what happens if something happens to you. And here's the thing that nobody talks about. You enjoy this process. You don't have to feel guilty for being ahead. You don't have to apologize for having more than the median. You're allowed to be grateful for where you are while still pushing toward where you want to be. You're allowed to acknowledge that you're doing better than most women while still feeling like there's work to do. Both things are true. And that relief, that acknowledgement, that's huge. Because here's what happens when you realize you're probably richer than 70% of women your age. You stop feeling like an imposter. You stop thinking that everyone else has it figured out and you're the broken one. You start thinking strategically instead of emotionally. And that's when things actually change. That's when the next 10 years look totally different from the last 10 years. So I want you to do something today. I want you to actually calculate your net worth. Write down everything you own and everything you owe. Add it up. See the number. And if you're ahead of the median for your age, I want you to let that sink in. You did that. You built that. And you can build on it. If you found this valuable, please like this video. It genuinely helps me understand what you want to see more of. And I want to create more content that validates where you are, while pushing you toward where you want to go. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We talk about this stuff constantly, about real net worth, about what actually matters, about getting clear on your financial situation and building from there. And I'd love to have you as part of this community. Before you go, I want you to think about this. What's one thing you're going to do differently, knowing that you're probably further ahead than you felt? Are you going to commit to calculating your actual net worth? Are you going to set a new goal? Are you going to start investing the money you have? Comment below and tell me. I read every comment, and I genuinely want to know where you are in this journey. Because your story, your financial win, that matters. And maybe it'll inspire someone else who's watching to realize they're not as far behind as they thought either.